Hello, Masters in Classroom Technology majors. I'm going to be walking you through the Master Project module. And this is just a screencast to help guide you through all the different parts of the module and to help highlight some really important information that you need to know. So the first page on the module is just the welcome. This is where you're going to find this screencast, as you can see, and there's also a reminder to go to the PowerPoint on the next page and to take the short quiz once you're done viewing the PowerPoint and watching the screencast. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next page. Okay, so here's where you can also view the PowerPoint or download the PowerPoint. My internet seems to be a little slow today, so I'm going to go ahead and download the master's thesis PowerPoint by just clicking on it. Okay, so the master's thesis PowerPoint is just to help you look at how you're going to plan your project. Okay, and the slides go through all the major steps. So the master's project is going to be the key component to your degree. This is what kind of helps us look at whether or not you've learned and accomplished things that you should have within your master's degree. Okay, and it should demonstrate your accomplishments as a technology facilitator and leader, as well as looking at the standards described in the ISTE at NetC. Okay, so there are two main components to your master's project. Okay, there are other parts, but there's two main parts. So there's your project files and a research paper. Okay, and we'll talk about both of those in the PowerPoint. And the focus of your project should be to reflect on your own professional goals and be supported through relevant research and demonstrate the impact on student learning. Okay, so these are just some ideas for master projects files. I'm not going to read them all, but I'm going to give you a couple. So you can create differentiated instruction activities and assessments. You can write a big grant. You can make a whole bunch of podcasts for your class, over 48 episodes, because all this stuff needs to be about a year's worth if you're going to make little things for your classroom. Or you can do seminars or professional development sessions. Okay, so things to remember for your project. So each project has to be tied to student learning. We can't push that enough, okay? And depending on your project, you may create all the materials by yourself, or you can identify content that is already created. Now, this doesn't mean that you only use other people's content, okay? An example of this is you can create a resource site for teachers in your district, and the site may include resources that have been created by others and those created by you, okay? But you should not just create a site and assemble available resources. Okay, in either case, you need to create a substantive set of materials for your project files, okay? Okay, so these are just examples of two projects that you can explore yourself. Okay, so example one is podcasts. So here we have a teacher who created 49 different podcasts, about 3 to 4 minutes long. Okay, and each podcast covered topics that were important and discussed in class. Okay, and so they did an entire year's worth, and they started from the first migration in America until the Reconstruction of after the Civil War. Okay, and so we can also go, I posted here a link for you guys, so you can just look at an example of these podcasts. So we're going to go ahead and go to this link. Okay, so here we can see that this teacher posted all of their podcasts onto a hosting site. In this case, it's Podbean. Okay, so all their podcasts, remember, podcasts are usually through Apple Inc., so that's where you'll be posting them, but then you can also put them onto a hosting site. In this case, they use Podbean. So all of the podcasts here are listed, and they're actually in order of when they need to be made. So we start with the first migration, and if we kept going, we would see that the Reconstruction after the Civil War. So go ahead and explore the site if you just want some examples of what some really good podcasts look like. Okay, so the second example is Screencast. So screencasts are pretty much what I'm doing right now. Okay, so another teacher made 66 screencasts for their class and used them so that those students who were absent could see the same information as the students who were actually in class. So again, I gave you a link to the site so you can see what can be done. Okay, so again here we have a hosting site was used for all these screencasts. In this case, it was a wiki space. Okay, so this teacher made all of their world history screencasts on the same site. And then there's also links to each of the screencasts. So students could look for the screencast they wanted. Again, they're organized very well. We have within each unit, and so students can just click on the screencast they want and watch it. So there's another good example, and feel free to explore this site as well. Okay, so the next portion of your project is the research paper. Okay, and your research paper is the second main component after the master's files. Okay, and the research papers should look at the different ways that your project files, how they affected student or teacher learning. Okay, and so the next few slides will be examples of this. Okay, so the first example, we're going to go back to that same podcast that we showed you, and the teacher who did those podcasts investigated the impact of podcasting on student learning at a junior high school. So first, to do this research paper, there need to be some study questions. So this teacher's 2 questions were: did students who use podcasts perform significantly better on assessments than a student who did not? And did students who use podcasts feel more confident than a student who did not? So then the paper explored the methods and results of this. Okay, so the study was 100 8th graders. Okay, so there were those who used the podcast and those who did not use the podcast. And the findings suggested that students who did use the podcast scored significantly higher and seemed to be more confident on those assessments as well. Okay, so that's just one example of a research paper. Research example 2, this is one you hadn't seen yet. So another research paper, the teacher investigated the effectiveness of professional development sessions to enhance student achievement in the classroom. Okay, so there was a survey for before they took the professional development, and then 2 years after they took the professional development. And then the survey found that the teachers did think that the professional development helped with technology in the classroom. Okay, so these are just 2 examples of how the research paper connects directly to your project files. Okay, so we hope that these examples will give you some ideas on what you would like your research to be centered around and what data you should collect. Okay, if you want to further discuss your research and or start your data collection, just email or contact your EDTL 6320 course instructor. So these next slides are going to show you the project timeline, and these are just kind of a guide to help you plan and complete your project. But some of the aspects of the project you definitely are completing on your own time. Not all of it is done in class. Okay, so you're first going to need to generate your initial project idea. So what do you want to study? Okay, and these will happen during your first classes. You can add these ideas to your blog or wiki pages from your classes. Just make sure you talk to your instructors and classmates about possibilities. Okay, because this is a good time to think about what you're going to do for the rest of your project. You should do this during your first semester if you're a full-time student, and during the first year if you're a part-time student. The next step is going to be writing your project prospectus. This is basically a project proposal. This is going to be a small outline of what you think your master's project is going to look like. Okay, this is done in EDTL 6320, and you're going to submit this to your course instructor and talk to them when you want to further discuss design and data collection. Okay, the classes where you're going to complete your master's project, okay, are going to be EDTL 6330, 6340, or 6350. Okay, and so once you solidify your direction, you're going and your proposal has been approved, you need to complete the substance of your project on your own. Okay, so you need to have created all of your project files, and then so you can present on work and then collect data on the impact. Okay, so you want to complete the bulk of your project construction before the next class, okay, which is your EDFI 6420 and EDTL 6350. Okay, so most of your project work is expected to be done outside of your coursework. Okay, again, these classes are to help guide you, not to help you complete. Okay, so there is HSRB, a submission and data collection. So the important thing here is you need to complete the online training for HSRB on your own before you take this class. Okay, and then during the class, you will do your IRB net submission, and then Dr. Sondergeld or whoever else it is will help you guide your study based on the data you have access to. Okay, and the final class is EDTL 6380, and this is where we're going to bring everything together for your portfolio to create a quality master's project. Okay, and this will be reviewed by a classroom technology panel. So if you're done with the module, done looking at the PowerPoint, because remember you want to read everything, I just kind of glazed over things, and you're done with looking at the screencast and all the other parts of the module. This is just a reminder to complete the quiz on the next page of the module. And feel free to use the screencast and the PowerPoint for reference for that. Okay, so back to the module. I'm just going to show you what the rest of it looks like. So after the PowerPoint part of the module, we have the quiz, okay? And it's going to be 10 points. It's super simple. You just need to look at the PowerPoint and the screencast to understand all the questions, okay? And there's not a time limit, but just make sure that you get it done. The next part of the module looks at pretty much everything that was discussed in the PowerPoint, just in deeper detail. So if you're wondering more about the project prospectus, there's a link to a document about that. More ideas for master's project, more information on HSRB and registering and going through IRB net training, things like that. So this is where you're going to find a whole bunch of more information, as well as seminars and webinars about the Community Master's Project. And then the rest of the module just looks at different aspects of your coursework and what you're going to do as a classroom technology major. There's just a letter to principals that you'll need for EDFI 6450 about your data collection. There's other pages about HSRB training, more information on that, and then more about different classes. So this is just a good thing to explore to help get to know the master's project really well. And the last one is just links to webinars that have been done about the master's project. And then keep in mind that there might be some more coming up, so pay attention to your announcements. Well, that's it for the screencast for the master's module. I hope it helped guide you through some of the steps. If you have any questions or need information, feel free to contact your professors, and don't forget to take the short quiz at the beginning of this module. Thank you.